Hi, I'm Lisa with Ivy Lane Interiors, and today I'm going to share a few projects that I've never shared before. They're going to be a little bit quicker, but I'm going to narrate the whole thing. I'll have a link in the descriptions for all the products I used. If you have any additional questions, just reach out to me in the comments. Enjoy!
So the first piece is this solid wood old entertainment center. I got it for $20, and actually the lady delivered it to me because she just wanted it out of her garage. So, I thought I could reinvent this and make it something kind of cool. So I started with a really good clean, and then I'm going to go back and go over the entire piece and just fill in any areas that need to be filled in with a little bit of wood filler. Now I'm going to give everything a really nice scuff sand. You see, I started out with a mouse sander. So, when you start projects, if you're a beginner, you just start with what you have. I have a real fancy sander now, but when I started, I just had a mouse sander. There's a lot of little details and grooves. So after I'm done sanding, I like to come back with a liquid sandpaper just to hit it, make sure I've gotten all of the areas, etch up that surface so that I have really good adhesion when I go to prime and paint. I have a ceiling curtain track that I've attached some drop cloths to. It allowed me to create a section in my garage that was perfect for my spray booth. So for this piece, it's really dark, and I was concerned that it was going to bleed through. So I decided I'm going to use Ben Shellac Primer. It's a really great primer to use when you want to make sure that your paint adheres. So it's going to lock in those tannins, make sure that I have really good adhesion when I go to prime and paint. I gave it a good scuff sand and then tack clothed it down, and now I'm going to go in, I'm going to paint. I'm just using a paint and a roller on this. For this project, I used Benjamin Moore Advanced Paint and Satin. I believe this was White Dove. To reimagine this, I've decided to add a backing, and I'm going to put this really beautiful wallpaper on the back, and I'm going to attach it to the back of the entire piece. This is a vinyl, so it'll wear really easily. If anything spills on it, you'll be able to wipe it up very easily. I tried to pick a neutral wallpaper that I thought would go with pretty much any decor. What I'm going for is kind of like a bookcase, and then it has that drop down area. I'm going to stage it like a bar cabinet. So it'll be storage, it'll be a bar cabinet. You could also use it as a secretary, as like a drop down secretary desk. So it's going to be multifunctional. And of course, since I'm a little extra, I decided to tape off some of the doors, and I added a little bit of gold leaf just to kind of accentuate some of the little areas. You can see I've attached the back. I added just a little extra molding to the top just to make sure everything blended in. So now I'm ready to stage it. So what I do when I stage is I pull everything out of the way. I have a roll-up vinyl flooring that I got from Lowe's. You just roll it out, and then I can put my piece in place and take my pictures. You can see I like to roll everything around on dollies. It makes things very easy, especially when I'm working by myself. So I'm just going to gather some things around my house that I have, kind of just work in threes. When I'm staging, I like to work with similar pieces. So if I have glass, if I have like to have some greenery. So I try to also look and kind of keep things at a diagonal for kind of similar size. So here's the before and here's the after. What do you think? I think it's a really good reimagine. Went from dark and dated, nobody wanted it, to beautiful, modern. China cabinet, you could use it for a bar cabinet, you could use it for a secretary, desk area, multi-use, beautiful storage, nice and reimagined. The second piece is this Drexel Accolade. I love campaign sets, and I offered this up for customization. Nobody wanted it, so I decided, you know what? I'm going to do whatever I want with it. So I hope I'm not going to make you mad, but I decided I'm going to paint it because these are fabulous painted out. So I'm going to take off all of the hardware. I want to make sure I get a really good paint job. There's a lot of texture in this wood, so I decided I'm going to do a wood fill. I'm using Durham's water putty. You just mix it up with a little bit of water, and then you're going to put it on your piece. And then once it dries, you're just going to come and sand it back. This is going to fill in all those little areas and give you a really beautiful, smooth finish. Now I'm going to tape off all of my drawers to make sure I get a really good, clean finish when I prime and paint. I'm using a tinted primer. This is Ben Shellac again, but I've just had it tinted to kind of a light gray because I am going to go dark with this. So if you can go with a darker color primer, it just helps when you have a little bit darker base to work with. I'll do 2 coats of primer, making sure I do a scuff sand in between, remove any sanding dust, and then I can move on to my paint from there. Fusion came out with one of their new paints, which was Chesler. It's a beautiful bluey green color, so I really wanted to try it. You can see I put it in my Home Right sprayer. I think I ended up doing about 3 coats on there. It's a very saturated color. So here's the before and here's the after. Isn't it stunning? I know I love the wood too, but you see how beautiful that finish is? By filling in that wood grain, it gave a gorgeous finish. I also cleaned and polished all of the hardware and then reinstalled everything. Beautiful. Number 2, this is a Century Chin Hua. This is the Raymond Sabata, I believe is how you say it, the collection. So it's very collectible. I love all things Asian, Chinese influence. So I'm really excited to do this one. I decided I'm going to keep this one for myself, so I'm not going to paint it all over. I'm going to restore it to the original look. I'm going to begin by taking all of that hardware off so I can get a really good refinish. I'm using Clean Strip Stripper. I'm just going to put it over the entire piece. I'm going to add a little plastic wrap just to make sure it doesn't dry out while it's kind of doing its thing. When I pull it back, I'm going to scrape off as much of the finish as I can. I'll use some lacquer thinner as an after wash just to get any more of that finish off that I can. I'll continue working my way around the entire table. I have 4 sides. I have the 3 sides, I have the top, and then I have the 2 doors that open. After all that dried, I'm ready to go on and do some sanding. So I'm going to do my normal sanding through the grits. Start with 80, go to 120, stop at 180, pause, and then decide how I'm going to finish it from there. So I'm going to repaint the black areas, but I want to make sure that I protect the wood area. I'm going to use some brown craft paper with some painter's tape, and I'm going to protect all of those areas that I worked really hard to get stripped to wood. I'm going to repaint the black areas. I'm going to go ahead and polish up all of the hardware, give it a really good polish. I like to use Barkeeper's Friend to give it a really good polish with a very fine steel wool. Once the paint is dry, I'm ready to start working on the wood. I've decided to simply oil it. So it is beautiful the way it is. I'm not going to stain it. I'm just simply going to oil it. So I'm using Osmo Poly-X oil. It's a very easy hard wax oil. You just simply wipe it on and then you wipe off the excess. I like to do at least 2 coats. You'll see later on I do decide to put a coat of oil on the black paint as well. Milk paint doesn't need a sealer, but I decided I really liked the sheen on it, so I'm just going to go ahead and oil the entire piece. So let's look back at the before. It was beautiful as it was, but after a full restoration, here is the after. Isn't it beautiful? I love the wood. It's brighter, and I think that's what I really wanted. I actually kept this piece for myself. It lives upstairs, and it has worn so well. It's probably been 2 years since I did it, and looks just as good today as it did 2 years ago. So I highly recommend the Osmo oil and the General Finishes Lamp Black. It's really seriously one of my favorite blacks. And it's really not a milk paint. It's actually, I believe, a mineral paint, but it has some milk paint properties to it. It's definitely one of my most favorite blacks. Number 4 is the matching set that goes with the other Accolade dresser. So these are nightstands. I set them up for customization on my local Facebook page. I had someone reach out. She wanted to customize them to natural wood. So I sold them for $1,000, $500 a piece. I know that sounds like a lot, but they're highly collectible. So I'm using QCS and I'm going to strip them completely down to raw. And then the customer wants the finish of natural Danish oil. It's a finish that she feels really comfortable with. I've never done strictly Danish oil. That's all she wanted. So with a natural Danish oil finish, you have to build it up, and it takes a long time. So you have to put on a coat, you have to wait several hours, put another coat on. You really don't start seeing the sheen until you get to about coat 4. And so I did about 5 coats on it, but The nice thing about the Danish oil is that she can refresh the finish anytime she wants to. So that's what she decided she wanted. I did take all the hardware off, gave it a really good polish. I made sure I've got all of the drawers sanded and refinished as well. After I stripped everything, I still had to go through all of the sanding process. So I started at 80 grit, I went to 120, I went to 180, and then I paused. So here I'm applying the natural Danish oil. It's a very easy finish to apply. It just takes time because you have to give it several hours to dry. I just put my applicator away in a glass jar until the next day, and then you just give it a light little sand, dust it off, do another coat. So it's just a little time consuming, very easy finish, and I think it wears really well. So here's the before and here is the after. It's beautiful, isn't it? I mean, that wood grain is stunning. Makes me wish I maybe had not painted the matching dresser, but this one is just beautiful. I love that it's brighter, has such a beautiful warm tone. This is literally the natural Danish oil. That's all that I put on it, and it is beautiful. Have you ever tried that? Well, I hope you like this compilation of these 4 flips. Thanks so much for watching.